A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming. Today is interesting. We have a very interesting topic from a very beautiful lady as well. Her name is Racheal Choo. Right. So thank you so much for attending this morning's session, first and foremost. All right. So if you don't mind, today we're going to talk about manufacturing strategies, production planning, and of course optimization by Racheal Choo from Robotics. So it's going to be very simple, very straightforward, and a bit more casual kind of thing as well. So that eventually that it's also a casual talk as well. We hope that it will be a bit more interactive. All right. So just bear with us for the next maybe 20 to 30 minutes first, and after that we can proceed further. Then Dr. Chua will have a quick tehtarik, virtual tehtarik, sorry, with Racheal to discuss about or maybe rebut on some of the topics that she actually brought up or some pointers. All right. So firstly, so just some quick ground rules. At the moment, please mute yourself for a short while. Right? When you want to ask a question during the Q&A session, please do ask a question. Switch on your video, please. We'd like to see your beautiful or handsome picture. All right. Then, of course, unmute yourself. Introduce who you are as well, and of course, ask your question over here. Thank you so much. So. All right, so this is very quick what to expect this morning. All right, so we've done the welcoming remarks actually, so I'm doing the quick welcome remarks. Then Racheal will actually share later on her thoughts on manufacturing strategies. And then of course, then later we will have a tehtarik with Dr. Chua. All right, and then after that we have a Q&A session. Then the session ends. All right, we hope to finish everything in about 1 hour. Shouldn't take too long. So Racheal, she is a trilingual professional with experience in the B2B market for Eastern Hemisphere for technology companies. Currently, she is the co-founder of a robotics startup based in Malaysia and Thailand. Their product developments include mobile robots and industrial robots. The startup is an advocate for 3D simulation and virtual reality platforms, as it is believed to be the next industry trend.
Oh, thank you for the introduction, Kenneth. It has been a long time since anyone called me a beautiful lady. Always good to have compliments. It's nice to have this kind of things time to time. Okay. Well, I guess now in our life, after globalization is such a common word for the past 20 years, right? We would imagine that this kind of e-tehtarik session is the only way forward, and face-to-face meeting is actually a luxury today. We were asked to do keynote speech, but as I was telling Kenneth earlier, I personally would like to take this a bit more casual. If you allow me to have a short preamble, I would like to start our conversation with our daily e-kopitiam topic, COVID-19. We all know COVID is changing very fast. It is infectious, it is lethal. We have no idea where it will be, but we can all agree that it's not going away. So many things in the industry have been accelerated, change, higher digital adoption, major digital transformation, forced transformation in most cases since last year. And there are surveys out there that concluded that this pandemic itself had escalated the digital adoption itself by 3 to 5 years and advanced the industry by 7 years, which I believe it is to be so as well. But what does it really mean for us? Manufacturing trends has shaped the world that we know over the last 20, 30 years. Obviously, it didn't just disappear overnight. We are not going away. So we have to look at how we can change to accommodate the new approach with new protocols, procedure, demands. And this is an important topic in the times of uncertainty today. So before we move on to my next bit, so take a quick minute and ask yourself, where are you today? What will you do to close the gap? Are you going to lean away from the future or move toward the future? So automation is one of the topics that we are talking a lot today, and it comes in 4 phases, as you can see. But what I'll be focusing on is phase 2 and 3. Through static recurring plans that have been increasingly risky in a manufacturing perspective since the pandemic, there are a lot of changes and they are moving so quick that it's hard to keep up with. Why? Because you cannot ramp up or slow down your manufacturing in a heartbeat because you don't know what are the impacts. You don't know what will be the effect of the logistic operation. Right before we start this session, Richard from HML was talking about logistic, right? How the freight, how even land logistic are increasing its prices. So it is something that we cannot solve just by being where we were back then pre-pandemic. So to keep it simple, a manufacturing strategy plan have 5 steps. Oops. The first one is always improve forecast, standardized production planning and scheduling. And it means to create alignment between demand expectation and capacity utilization. That's very simple. The third one is utilize digital twin and analytics. And this is something that we'll talk a lot about today, which is why Kenneth and Dr. Chua invited me. And the fourth one is integrate a supply chain. I'm not talking about just going to having the right material at the right time for your production, but as well as integrating all your supply chains together, because one of the other supplier might or might not have what you needed. So it will then consequently delay your production, right? And the fifth one is also something that I personally like to talk about, real-time planning modules and communication. It has to be transparent. It has to be as responsive as possible, adjusting to your production plans to maintain values and keep things moving no matter what event might occur. And this can only happen with digital adoption. We have to teach how we used to do things like in spreadsheet in manner that only the operation manager might know what is going on the floor. Yeah, we have to keep it very transparent in that way. That's why I put transparency as one of the things when it comes to real-time planning modules and communication. What we are seeing here in phase 2 and phase 3 is something that virtual platform can help. That's where digital twins or digital factory, as you call it, and analytics comes in. How does it really bring value is whatever we do in virtual platform, we are not stopping your production at all. But you still get to study how you can improve by ramping up or slowing down certain production line, and how does it affect your business as a whole. All right, I'm not going to take up too much of everyone's precious time with all this keynote and stuff, but one of the main concerns that we have always talked about with stakeholders is, how do I know it is the right decision to automate a certain process? Whenever people come to us, that's what we will ask. Okay, it is true that we have no one-size-fits-all answer. Definitely, everyone have certain parameters limitation when it comes to automation. It has been proven even more challenging these days because with the global lockdown, strict protocol procedures on entry-exit, stakeholders, suppliers, vendors, partners were not able to hold meeting as what we were used to. There are no site visits, no survey, no game plan. You don't even get to see. All you see is this 2D face, 2D drawings. Maybe if you're lucky, your supplier or your solution provider have 3D models that could kind of shed some light into what you're getting yourself into. But what if I were to tell you today that what we will be discussing later on our digital twin is there is a way to bridge this gap. What if layout planning, design can be iterated live in meeting, and you will be in the meeting telling people like, no, I don't want this thing here, doesn't make sense to me, and it will be moved immediately for your sake. What if I can tell you that the proof of concept are now possible with minimal cost before you even put down your hefty investment into creating a new production line for automation. So if you think this is something that you want to know, so spare me 6 minutes of your life to watch this live demo. Well, I can't call it live because I discussed this. Connection is a sacred issue here. This is pre-recorded, but it is created specially for this session. So take a look and write down any question that you want, and I'll do my best to answer everything later during the discussion.
Welcome to August tehtarik session with Messe Worldwide and SHRDC. I'm Zach. You're watching a Visual Components showcase video by Robotics. Visual Components is a 3D simulation software that helps you visualize and simulate your production line in a virtual environment. In today's video, we're going to show you what Visual Components can do. What we're looking at right now is a simulated factory layout that produces two kinds of products. Mind you, the simulation you're about to see is sped up, if not it's a little bit too slow. This is the first production line that we're going to be looking at. Now that the simulation has begun, firstly, we can see a mobile robot replenishing the production line, bringing in a basket of green boards, and a forklift bringing in a pallet full of raw products. Next, a robot that's mounted on a robot positioner moves the raw material onto a CNC machine to be processed. It is then placed onto a conveyor to be assembled with the green board. We can see it being welded together, and lastly, a human puts the final product into a box. Jumping on to the next production line, the product this time is a cylinder. I'm using a cylinder for illustration purposes, but we could replace this with anything. After the material is processed, the product moves into a machine called the box filler to be packaged. A robot puts the packed products into a carton box. In Visual Components, the robots can be programmed to stack products into boxes. It then goes to the human that would tape the box up and transfer it to a shelf await shipping. Going back to production line 1, we can see that the pallet of raw products has been emptied. The robot transfers the pallet onto a special conveyor that would send the pallets to the end of the production line. When the box is filled up, a human tips the box up and loads it onto a pallet. And lastly, a forklift picks it up and loads it onto the shelf. Moving on, we can access the statistical data of each component in this model. Here we're looking at parts produced against time. We can look at the mobile robot and forklift utilization rates to see if you really need them, human utilization rate, box produced, robot utilization rate, and much more. There are much more statistical data that you could view depending on your needs. Now, here we have an automation study model. On the left, we have a model that processes a state of task using humans, and on the right, the tasks are fully automated using robots and conveyors. The item goes into a lathe machine to be processed. It then proceeds into a coordinate measuring machine to check its dimensions, and lastly, it's transported out on a tray as a completed product. Here, the tasks are the same. The only difference between the two is that the other one is operated by human operators while this is fully automated. After about an hour of simulation, we can get the statistical data for each layout. Here we can see that the human operated layout is producing 34 parts an hour while the automated layout is producing 36 parts an hour. These are not the only statistical data that we can look at. Going to the statistics tab, we can go to idle interval to see which robots are working harder, which humans are working more. Human travel distance to see how far they walk. Machine usages, see if machines are utilized well. And these are not the only data that we have access to, there are much more. This data can be exported to Excel for further analysis to improve your model. Visual components comes in handy if you're looking to optimize your production line and are trying to visualize what it will look like. It's also good if you want to assess if the investment to automate is worth it. Now, the purpose of this model is to demonstrate how different layouts affect the productivity of a factory floor. Here, we are looking at layouts 1, 2 and 3. They have the same exact machines and processes, the only difference being the placements of the machines. By looking at this, you probably couldn't tell which layout is the best. Likewise, Model 4 and 5 have the same machines and processes, the only difference being its layout. After an hour of simulation, we could get some stable results. Here we can clearly see that layout 3 is superior, producing the most numbers of parts per hour. And between layout 4 and 5, layout 4 produces the most number of parts per hour. Visual components allows you to simulate hundreds of layouts to find out the one that's the most efficient without having to spend a dime to do real-world testings. In this industry, space is also limited, so it could be used to find out how we can optimize the space for maximum productivity. Now, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.
I hope that's interesting enough. We try to cover as much as possible by visualizing this in manners that are relatable but generic as well. So when we do visualization and simulation, one of the things to make your digital factory or your future factory as realistic as possible is to have a big e-catalog in visual component itself. So we have all sorts of things inside. We have factory facility, robot positioner, workpiece positioner, of course the industrial robot, robot tools, grippers, handlers, of course CNC machines and different sort of machines, conveyor belts that are common, and then resources as in human operators and mobile robot are considered resources. It will show up in statistic data, it will show up as resources. So you will know like whether is it worth it to put a human operator to operate your production line, or is it more productive if you put a mobile robot there. Visual component e-library is something that we are very proud of. It has more than 2,400 components. We have over 35 layouts that you can choose from. What you have there is one of them. We have over 70 actual branded robots. So we have like the common one, Kuka, Yaskawa, Fanuc, ABB, the top 4. And then we have a lot of smaller brands as well, which is very rare. In a lot of other simulation software, you might not get this much of branded robots there. Of course, because we have this many branded names and the smaller ones, we have around 1,400 robots for you to choose from. And our robots are actually a true 3D model of the actual brand. So whatever we put inside the 3D environment, if it says it fits according to your layout, it will fit to your layout. So you don't have to worry like, okay, I want to do this. So the initial provider told me that, oh, it would fit, but when I saw the robot arrive, it could barely get through my front door. Something like that. Okay. The reason why we have that demo to showcase such a long 6 minutes demo to showcase all sort of different production layout, what 3D simulation can do and simulate in a 3D environment is because we want to show that information is power. Before you do any form of automation investment, you need to know exactly what you're going to do. You need to understand what are the possibilities. Because as we were showing earlier, layout makes a huge difference when it comes to increasing or decreasing the productivity. And last but not least, before you make any investment, it's important to have very informed decision. When you have all the information that you needed, then you will know if this is the right decision or not. Next one, I'm not gonna go too much about, but apart from visual component, we also have another virtual reality platform called Stage. It's actually a real-time 3D conference tool for professionals. It's built especially for engineers. Anything that has to do with CAD models and simulation can be done there, and it can be done mostly live. But due to time purposes, and we want to like get this moving and everything, because I think the discussion would be more interesting. So I will go ahead and take another quick 3 minutes of your time to have a quick introduction of robotics. So Dr. Chua and Kenneth doesn't have to ask me anymore. Yes. So before we jump into the session, I just want to introduce ourselves. Robotics is a Malaysian robotics startup. And because we like our logo so much, we actually trademark our logo. Yeah, you can't use our logo. Yes. If you're curious about us, I think you should sit down, grab a coffee. We're going to have some conversation later on. We're going to take a bit of time to introduce ourselves. We come to work daily because we want to solve the automation problem. Our co-founder has been robotic engineer the entire life, and our current team consists of aspiring robotic engineer. We are a team of 10, 5 in Malaysia and 5 in Thailand. And my co-founder, one of them are actually in Thailand. Yes. Based on the years that among our co-founder have been, we are like above 40 years. We are old in robotics industry, and we are familiar with the industry, robots and its application. Why do we think we are engineering company? Because right now we have 2 channels. The first one is our actual core product, which is industry robot development. We work with international companies on our development project. And our second channel is actually 3D simulation and real-time 3D conference technology. So you have seen the visual component part. I don't have time to do the 3D conference part, but maybe next time. For clarification purposes, I want to inform you that Visual Component is actually a 3D simulation technology company from Finland. And their simulation solutions are trusted by hundreds of organizations worldwide, ranging from robot OEM to system integrators to major manufacturers. And Stage is actually a German company that has been developing in the realms of virtual reality and real-time 3D conference. All right, so quick one. If you're still wondering why we say we are hardcore engineers, as our introduction, this is why. Our product development is a long and winded road. It takes a lot of patience and tenacity to continue the work, because there's a lot of testing, testing that didn't work, and it can not happen without passion in this industry. If you have any question, keep it towards the end. We'll try to answer as much as possible. So why do I put the wireless icon there, right? Because wireless means nothing, but it has to be also seamless at the moment. Like sometimes our Wi-Fi break down on us. It's not very cool in the middle of a call. Being in our line, in order for us to cater to our customer in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, and others, so we do zoom around a lot and literally zooming. Of course, one day we intend to populate more dots in the world map, but at the moment we only have 2. And we started in 2019, and we were supposed to have our 3rd office in Johor August 1st, but we're having a little bit of setback. We were not even able to start our renovation despite paying all the deposits. So at the moment, our estimation is that it will only be set up probably Q1 in 2020, which is quite far away. Our motivation has always been a market leader in Asia, and we will always ask, why not anywhere else? Why not the world? Why not global? Why Asia? Our answer is rather simple. We have always been in Asia. Why not use it as an advantage? We have the talent, we have the language, we have the resources. So when we started Robotics, our drive will focus solely on developing mobile robots, and slowly we ventured into industry robot as well. Then we realized that we are missing something. Along the way, as we talk to more and more people, we realized that automation adoption is not as costly, doesn't have to be as costly and time consuming if you have the right tool. And this is where we come in. We truly believe 3D simulation and virtual reality is the up-and-coming trend and increasingly essential tool for industry professionals to put operations, application, testing, new process line without relying on real assets or machine, and subsequently decreasing the expenses and time that are normally is the major concern. And in our current way and how we are actually doing our tehtarik session, you cannot argue that virtual reality or augmented reality is the way forward. This is how you can be where you cannot be and still not risk having a communication breakdown. And communication is a key thing when it comes to engineering project. To be able to see, touch, and feel is something that would ascertain a lot of doubts or set aside a lot of doubts. Last but not least, I want to tell you that robotics is here to stay. We aim to continue to develop this market with the industry, together with the universities, academias, as we call it, and SHRDC is one of our partners in this case. In order to maintain the trend demand, we are working with all these academias to train simulation engineer for futures, create talent pool and know-how for young engineers. If you look at the article there, it's our first, I wouldn't call it test, but our first collaboration with UTM. And we completed an entire semester course for automation technology in UTM using visual component alone. Because every tertiary education right now, in fact, I think the entire education sector has been online for the past 1.5 years, nearly 1.5 years. So our result came out good. It doesn't take an expert to run visual component. You just need to know. And the students were on their own. We only gave them a brief 2.5-hour training of visual components, and they were able to complete from individual assignments to group projects. And the result was tremendous. I was even invited by the professor that was doing this course to join their project session, and I even get to ask questions, which was fun. Makes me feel young. But that's about it from Robotics. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Racheal. So we should have a tehtarik session between Dr. Chua and of course Racheal to have a quick discussion, and then we see how we move forward. All right. But in the meantime, guys, please prepare your questions. All right. Of course, we hope that there's some more questions as well coming from the floor, and it will be something interesting to see as well. See how it works and how to move forward as well. So the tehtarik session is now yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Kenneth, and thank you, Rachel, for the very, very nice presentation. And the video that you shared, I believe it's very, very interesting how visual components is actually able to assist in terms of understanding the cycle time, understanding the process time, coming up with the best factory layout, or what we call as the most optimized layout,
Yes.
right? So just a quick question on, how do you see visual components as a tool to help our SMEs in terms of manufacturing simulation, and how the tool would actually help to speed up the planning processes, and also help to optimize the costs that they will undertake for their manufacturing process.
Okay, that's a very long and big question. So there's 3 sections. How can we help SMEs in terms of automation? And then how do we reduces the cost for automation production planning? Am I right? Let's answer the first 2, and then we'll go to the third one.
Sure. Of course.
When it comes to SME, right, we all understand that automation is a high-cost project. Every single robot at average 150K easily, single one. Imagine how many people you can hire, right? So how do you know that you're making the right decision? It has always been that topic, right? How do I know it's making the right decision? You cannot see, you are unable to visualize. What you have is someone showing you some video, or this is what I did with the other factory or with the other layout. You are always uncertain in terms like, how does it work in my environment? My production product are bigger or maybe smaller. Speed have to be quicker, and I'm looking at like higher production range. So in order to do that, right, you need to study. And to study, you need to have your digital factory. So the entire topic has always been digital factory and digital twin. And a lot of people was like, why digital twin? I walk to my floor, I know exactly what is happening. But digital twin is important because you're trying to project and forecast what could happen. And that is where it will help SME. But in terms of how you do production planning, if you look at somewhere in the mid of the video, we were talking about layout 1 and layout 2, where you have human operators or you have a robot arm. What we didn't show was that another one where the mobile robot would pick up and walk probably 500 meters away to deliver your product, right? From there, you can study it based on the parameters. If you have like 5 workers on the same cell process, you're looking at maybe production of 90 pieces an hour, say. But with 1 robot arm and 1 mobile robot, you're looking at easily a 300K investment without even changing your CNC machine, right? Your ROI will be longer, but it will be consistent. So automation has always been about consistency. You cannot ask a robot to do an ad hoc job, for sure. Automation have to be something that are repetitive, mundane, and stuff that most operators doesn't want to work on. It's hot or it's tedious. That's where you know automation can come in. And after a study, you will realize that whether is it viable for you or not. So digital twin is actually what I would call the bridge to have this gap. And your investment is very little in comparison to spending your first 100K, 200K, and 300K into your automation floor. You can either do a quick study, or you can actually, of course, get the license yourself and do it. So you can keep on simulating your environment if you're planning to expand or slow down. We can have a lot of flexible manufacturing this day. Like a lot of OEMs are into flexi manufacturing, where they can easily convert one of their process line into something else. And most of your end customer would ask you like, okay, you can convert one of the process line to build my product, but how much would you build? And you won't know, right? You won't know until you try to actually convert your physical production line into it. But with digital twinning, with digital factory, you can actually do it based on the size and everything, and then input the parameters, and then you have a rough idea. We are looking at 95% accuracy of what it would be compared to real time. Did that answer the question?
Yep, definitely, Rachel. I think you answered the questions very well. And I think a lot of questions that when we speak to industries, especially the SMEs, we talk about Industry 4.0 as going automation, right? So in with regards to your sharing on digital factory, the digital twin, do you think that it should be going to automation first? Right, to buy machines, to buy robot arms, or do you think that industry should actually take one step to actually look at a digital factory, see the value, and then decide whether that automation strategy will work for them? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
So to reiterate what you just asked me is that is digital factory the way to go, and is Industry 4.0 all about digital factory, right? I would say Industry 4.0, based on my very little years in comparison to you in technical, it's more than just automation. Industry 4.0 is definitely more than automation. It's about digital transformation, adoptions, and that itself includes IoT, cloud, data, a lot of data science involved, and then comes the physical part, your automation line, right? If you ask me if automation is Industry 4.0, if we look at the history of robotics, right, it has been there for the past 60 years or more. Of course, the first robot are like as big as a house, and then it takes another house to compute the CPU. That's how machines are being made back then. But it has been there. So automation is not really the Industry 4.0, but rather the physical asset that you would take in as an Industry 4.0. The really core concept behind Industry 4.0 from my personal perspective is to be able to get the digital data and your digital adoption into your organization itself. How much are you able to see, and what value would it bring you when you are looking at this data? And like I said, information is power. If you want to know, like, are your factory working at full capacity? Are your people, based on your current layout, are working at optimizing way? It could be your machine is on the far left, and then your shelf is on the far right, which is very, very common in any factory. Have you ever calculated the amount of time for an operator to move something from far left to far right? Do you actually physically time that? No. This is where digital adoption would help. We have a rough pace. Of course, you don't count lah. If you're talking about everyone is running on a daily basis, but we don't do that. But on average, from walking from left to right versus driving a forklift left to right, all these are time, and time is resource and money. So digital adoption and having a virtual platform or digital platform itself are something that would actually propel you forward into Industry 4.0. Only then you're able to fully utilize your automation line. I have seen a lot of places where they would try to do automation because it is the way forward and it's a story to tell, right? Our latest hype, I think last year, right, was Mr. DIY being listed, and they have a whole automatic warehouse system. I think they were running, 20, 30 mobile robots if the article is correct and if I remember correctly. So that is the way forward, right? But how do you know that the mobile robot are working at full capacity? How do you know that it's every single one of them are actually being utilized to their full capacity? You don't know. You don't know until you put it there and you realize like, oh yeah, maybe I actually don't need 30. Maybe I only need 20 because the other 10 are constantly charging themselves at the charging door. Yeah, you never know that until you install it, but by then you would have already completed your payment, your supplier already sent everything to you, like, sorry, you said you wanted 30. Yeah, and mobile robot is not cheap, right? Mobile robot at the average would be like 100K, 120K. Yes. So digital adoption and having the data there would actually be the what I call it, the first step for you to go into Industry 4.0.
Thank you, Racheal. I think that's a very good example of how you put that, the mobile robot utilization and whether or not it's actually fully utilized and where are the gaps that you could actually optimize in the operation, right? So assuming that some factories they are still at a stage of having manpower, meaning to say that manual processes, meaning to say they need operators and all that, right? How can they use visual components to actually help them to see the gaps and to help them to optimize their manpower? Especially now, workforce is like 60% maybe able to go to the factory, maybe 50 or maybe 40, depending on your vaccination, criteria and all that, right? Or regulations. How can visual components help them to see or visualize ways to optimize production and to forecast what is capable? Yeah.
Apa?
So interesting background noise. So we are back at having human operators, right? And if you remember, a certain part of the demo earlier on was about human operators. So digital twin is about mapping your exact current factory or your future factory into the 3D environment. And then you by then would know, like, at the moment I have maybe 10 manning this particular process line, 10 operators. You would calculate, of course, on a production floor, operation manager would have known, like, per day or per hour, how much am I expected to produce, right? And I don't know much about anywhere else, but I do know some of the manufacturing are still using spreadsheet to keep track. Yes, and it could be a very complicated spreadsheet that only the operation manager would know how to read. And if we were to put this in context, right, let's say the stakeholder, the owner of the plant actually came down and looked at it, they would see that everyone is very busy, very hardworking, but they didn't calculate the time that employee would take breaks, toilet breaks, smoke breaks, even walking left to right to find a certain things. Putting all this timing in and everything, you would be able to see immediately, like in the 3D environment, which employee are actually more idle. Because it's impossible for every employee to be working at 100% capacity. I know I don't. I don't work 100% on a daily basis. I have a 60-40 time. 60-40 time. And on the other 40 time is for me to look into some other interesting topic online, trending or stuff. And it is common, especially in this era where everyone owns a smartphone. Everyone have access to data, social media. Every now and then you hear a beep, a ring. What are the first thing that you do? You take out your phone. But map everything in 3D, see what are the maximum capacity, and then you compare it to what you have on the floor, right? If you are supposed to have 100 over every 15 minutes, but instead you only get 92, you know people are not even working at 80% capacity. And people on the floor, I was told that they were expected to work 80-20. So 80% capacity, 20% idle, because we're human. We need rest. We need breaks. It's human nature. So when you put this into comparison, you immediately know what is missing. And numbers are something that doesn't lie. I think it's one of the things that we like about math. Numbers doesn't lie. If I say it is 100, it's supposed to be 100. It's just like if 90 over 100 is supposed to be an A, you got 89, you're not an A. End of story. It's just that straightforward. And that itself is data and information. That gave you the clarity that you would need to know about everything that's happening. Maybe it's stretched a little bit far-fetched, but I hope that actually answer your core questions.
Yep, definitely, Racheal. And I think the part about numbers don't lie is actually very interesting, because that provides a lot of transparency, right? And it provides a lot of information where it creates knowledge and wisdom for the industries to take the next step, because that is a firm number on what they need to do and what are the corrective action that they can do next, right? So in any case, for any SMEs, right, if they say that, okay, I believe that visual components can really support me in terms of my optimization, my production planning, right? Maybe you can share what is the potential ROI for it, right? And is it affordable, right? For an SME to kickstart their journey through visual components. Yeah, what is the roadmap for them in terms of your experience working with the industries?
All right. Visual component has 3 price point. So it depends on how heavy user you are or how much you intend to achieve. You can always go from a 2-digit, a 5-digit to a 6-digit price point, for sure. And SHRDC just gotten one. If you guys are actually interested, you should talk to Dr. Chua for sure. But for SME, if you are not heavy user, you just want to study, you can always simply engage Robotics for a quick study. We charge a small fee I think small compared to what you are making an investment on, depending on what you intend to do. But if you want to own visual component license itself, I think the smallest, the essential package is around 30 plus thousand for a single license, and it would do most of the things that you would need. You just cannot do maybe over the top simulation, because that would require higher access in terms of the functionality. But you will still get your process modeling, which is very, very important when it comes to 3D simulation, because it is what you will see from layout planning, design, production planning, optimization. You can do everything that Zach had demo earlier on in the demo. The only thing you cannot do is probably virtual reality, which is something that we promote a lot on, especially with suppliers and system integrators are not able to travel down to your place. But otherwise, most of the function that you would need in a general day-to-day manufacturing floor would be in the essential package.
Great, Racheal. Thank you.
I guess in terms of ROI, right? I completely forgotten about the ROI part, right? Because the return on investment, it's very simple. I guess if you are investing a 300K to 500K automation line, spending 30,000 to 70,000 is nothing, and then you get to keep it, and then you get to consistently upgrade and see what can be done, what else can be improved on yourself. But of course, if you were to just come to us for one single project and you don't intend to do much, then of course the cost will be lesser than that. So that would be ROI justification.
Right. Thank you, Racheal, and that's very good. And I think that Robotics provides different price ranges and services support for the SMEs in terms of this area. Now, in terms of visual components, when you talk about ownership of the platform, right? Is it very, very straightforward and easy for SMEs that have people in the factory that do production planning on a day-to-day basis on an Excel sheet, for example, previously, and now they want to embark on visual components to do that, right? Do you think it's easy for them to adopt it, right? To embark on it, or are there certain requirements, right, that they need to have before they go into visual components?
I guess the only requirement when it comes to embarking into this digital platform, virtual platform as we call it, right, is to have at least an engineer. You would definitely have to have someone that are familiar with at least CAD modeling, basic CAD modeling, and then the rest, I think we can get training from SHRDC. And once you go through that, right, if an engineer, mechatronics students that have not done any real life machinery and stuff were able to complete their studies and projects to show production optimization and ROI as part of their presentation. I don't think anyone that have worked in real life has any issue implementing that. You just need to be trained one time. And Robotics is here for any technical support. You can email us, you can ask us, and we will do our best to support.
All right. Thank you very much, Racheal. I think that is really good insights, and it provides great opportunities for the industries to actually embark on their digital factory journey, I would say. And I believe this is something that's very important, especially now when it comes to process and production optimization, right? Utilizing tools like this will definitely, I believe, save industry a lot of cost and also save a lot of time. So I guess that's all I have. Questions for this short tehtarik, right? And now I think it's time to open up to the floor for questions, right? And Kenneth, back to you.
Thank you. Actually, Frank, honestly speaking, right, I think a lot of the questions has been answered, which is very nice, actually.
That's good.
Yeah. Sorry?
Now we can actually enjoy the tehtarik.
Yeah, now we can enjoy some tehtarik, right? Okay, so so in the meantime, right, while everybody's trying to ask some questions or think of a question to ask Racheal or Dr. Chua, please do think of something. So because I think I wanted to ask about accuracy earlier, so I think just now accuracy was already answered.
Yep.
Then at the same time as well, digital adoption and digital twin as well, and digital factory as well at the same time as well, and that was also answered as well. I think what I would be curious as well is actually on another topic on digital twin or the digital factory, right? And how much more efficiency can one expect? Because just now we talked a lot about getting rid, not saying getting rid, means we try and discount, or rather we try and get rid of the mundane time in between, the downtime in between for maybe individuals moving here and there kind of thing as well. So that downtime, so to speak, for a factory.
Yeah.
So, but after, say, for example, we use visual components, right, and we do the simulation effect, how much more efficiency can we expect actually moving forward?
If I understand you correctly, efficiency in the sense of after having this virtual platform
Correct.
in your company, right?
Yeah.
All right. What are the biggest costs of manufacturing is when one of your production line have to be shut down, right? Not being able to produce your product or your merchandise is the biggest cost, right?
Yeah.
And normally it would happen if you wanted to do integration, new sort of machine movement and stuff, or even having a prototype, right? And I guess in terms of efficiency is that before you even make any changes on the floor, You can do it in the virtual platform. You can see it already before you even lift a finger to do it. So our value has always been like, we don't have to touch anything physical in your manufacturing floor. We won't even disturb any of your operators, operation manager in that sense. All we need is to understand what you want to achieve, what you need to achieve, and if you can send us a true 2D layout plan of your factory, we can map it out already. Of course, you have to have the true layout lah. If you need us to go and measure, then yes, we'll do that as well. Then we will have to interfere a little bit with your people. But otherwise, everything can pretty much be done through very simple virtual call like this. In fact, if Dr. Chua sends something to me right now, I'll put it into visual component and we can do it live. And if you have stage as well as part of your digital adoption, I can even build the thing live for you as you see it. You can boss me around and tell me like, nope, I don't like the machine being a triangle. I want it to be a full square. I can do it for you. I want my conveyor belt to be round and not a straight line. I can also do it for you if you wish it that way, as we call it. And these are actually the comfort of being able to do this at a probably even from your bed if you want to, if you don't want to turn on camera and all, right? You can just tell your engineer like, no, I don't think it will work based on my experience in the factory. I don't think this will work. Can you show me if you put it in a certain way that that I just suggested, and then run the simulation. And our simulation can run not just for an hour, it can run for a year. We can actually speed it up, run for a year, and you will see in a year what will you achieve. And when you have that data, you calculate it against your inflation of your costs and everything, and you do it on the basis that, okay, maybe everything here will be sold off. What are my return on investment? That is something only you can answer, but so far our feedback has always been really good. Is that efficiency? I would call that is efficiency and comfort, knowing where you're going.
Nice, interesting. So we talk about efficiency and comfort as well. That's nice. All right, cool. So do we have any questions from the floor? Maybe Richard or someone else, or Sally or Mr. Lee as well?
On my side, I think, well, there's a lot of explanation, a lot of questions, and I think most of it is being covered. Okay, and yeah, it's all boiled down to the type of the industry itself, whether how the automation can chip in for more efficiency and so on. Because in some industries, they are rather like labor intensive, just like the rubber industries, or like the rubber hose, and even our industries like the engine mountings and so on, which the characteristic of the industry itself couldn't have like too much of a mass production, whereby we have customers want this and that customized and so on. So I wonder if there's any help on the automation in relation to such industries like ours.
Okay, visual component actually started off, one of the major users is actually automotive. When it comes to assembly, paint process. So yes, we do have that. We didn't show it there just now because we have to be a bit generic. But I think one of our biggest user is actually Toyota.
Yes. That is different because for them, because they are more on the assembly type, all right, and I should say, for example, for Toyota, one assembly line for, let's say, Altis is very basic, it's very regular, and is, you know, so that automation will help a lot, definitely. But for example, in our industries like engine mountings, whereby first of all the order quantity of each customer won't be too big, We don't talk about thousands of
Okay.
pieces per model. And for information, we have around 10,000 models. So so each time we have to actually retune our production process in order to cater for different models and different components and so on. So that is the thing, is we find automation is quite, we don't know how to how to go about it because of the production quantity. Yeah.
All right. So, if based on what you have just explained, it is safe to say that you are really running on a flexible manufacturing process, right?
Yes.
Because you tailor to according to the needs of your customer on a need basis.
Yeah, that's right.
During the start of the conversation, right, we talk about the 5 strategies that manufacturing have to employ, and one of them is forecasting. Improve your forecast. And I'm sure that most of your customers don't place an overnight order and tell you like, I want to get this 50 done by tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So you normally what are the lead time that you have to plan this? If you don't know.
Actually, from the moment we plan for material coming and things like that, it will take 2 months planning at least. All right, before the components comes into place and we do assembling of the parts itself. So the thing is, because there will be the planning itself is too, I should say, it's too short for automation to come into effect. Like for example, I have one customer ordered 100 pieces. If we were to do it, it's actually within half a day. We wait 2 months for the material, half a day for the assembly. So if we do it in the automation, of course you have to the program the thing and how to assemble it properly and so on. By the time all this being done, it may defeat the purpose of automation, right? We can just use two foreign worker to just so that is the thing. We are quite, I would say it's quite I should say quite
Hesitance when it comes to
niche.
automation.
Yeah, niche. Yeah, true. No, it's more on the labor intensive, right? Because it's too, the process is not standard. I can say it's not standard. Being from model to model is not standard. That is the problem on our side.
Okay. Well, as I was saying earlier, right, automation has to be a process where it's repetitive and mundane. One of the key criteria for automation, and also when the environment is harsh, where it's very hard for you to get people to be involved in that production floor because the area is constantly heated. You cannot have aircon because it will interfere with the production, and it has to be repetitive and mundane.
Yeah.
So that's one of the criteria for automation. But if you're running something so niche, how Visual Component can actually help was probably to see a study of what could be and what will be.
Yeah,
I won't
true.
say that it will be a full automation because Visual Component are able to simulate, including your production floor, only on human operators alone. That is something that we can do, but are we ever going to be able to automate your thing? I think then you and I will have to have a separate section and then to actually discuss about this in
Yes,
detail,
true.
because I will actually need to see get involved and actually see what you really do, because I just know you today and I have no idea what you really do.
Yeah. Of course. Well, anyway, yeah, it's good. Yeah, we can consider to check on it, all right, with my team, all right, and things like that.
No, we are always open for discussion, so don't worry about it.
All right, sure. I think
You
that's it
have
for
to go
me.
to Ipoh, I think.
No. Anyway, our factory is in Klang. So it's okay.
Very close.
Yeah, very close. So too bad. No Ipoh Hor Fun for you. So, yeah.
Shame.
Too bad. But anyway, yeah, we'll keep in touch on that. All right, I will let the
No
team
worries.
know and see if we can do anything on that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for the advice.
No, always a pleasure to share.
Yeah, on my side, I think, well, that's it.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Richard.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the floor? So if there's nobody from the floor asking any questions yet, so I think maybe we can open our cameras first, take a nice photo before everybody say goodbye. And then I have one question last.
Oh, okay.
So just one last, just maybe, I'm not sure whether it's a question or not, but we in the earlier presentation, right, Rachel, you mentioned earlier about that there's no one size fits all kind of solution.
Yes.
Right? But it seems that in from over the discussion just now with Richard, right, that it seems that in the visual components you can actually make a bit more of you can do a bit more simulation as well in that sense, right? So in this case, then can visual components or maybe role robotics in this case can you all help solve a lot of other possible automation problems, so to speak, in this case? Because there's a lot of like, so for Richard's case, it's high mix, low volume.
High mix, low volume, yes.
Yeah. So and those are some of the issues that I think Dr. Chua and I we have always been experiencing for the last few topics. Same mode of topic as well. And then everybody says, high mix, low volume, very difficult to consider about moving forward. So how do we? Is there something that maybe a solution that maybe visual components can consider?
Well, digital twin is about being able to visualize what you are, what you could be, what you would be. I wouldn't call it an actual solution, but being in the know is better than not knowing. I wouldn't call it a complete solution because after you do the study, right, there's always the factor of cost. There's always the factor of if I do this, all the families that are involved in this, what are the impacts? So there's a lot of external factor. What visual component, or what we call it as a 3D platform environment, can provide to you is allowing you to know that you actually have a choice or choices that you could take. And of course, end of the day, the decision is yours, but at least you know. You cannot make a decision on something that you don't know or unsure. Because at this time, I would say every single stakeholder, factory owner, their main concern has always been like, it's okay for me to invest $500,000, but how do I really know this $500,000 is worth my investment? And sometimes it's not time, right? You have to have the right solution provider. You have to work with people. You're spending your time as well. And time is something that money cannot take back. So knowing what you're going into and knowing that you have a choice to go into, that is where visual components come in. I cannot say it's a complete one-size-fits-all solution, but we will give you enough information to know whether you're making the right decision to do this or not. I think that's a very fair way to put it.
Yeah. Most importantly, as you mentioned earlier, making an informed decision rather than just jumping in, spending maybe a six-figure robot or more. That, after you buy, you cannot go through maybe the logistics door or your factory door, and you don't want that, huh?
No, I don't want that. Since we have a little bit of time, if you allow me 2 minutes to share.
Sure.
One of our favorite projects has always been actually when someone wanted to move factory and they want to actually visualize the factory in full, and they want to have a hybrid factory, as in like half human operators and half machine. And I think the stakeholder main concern is like, what if machine break down? What will happen to my factory? And yeah, one of the beauty of 3D environment is when you build this entire thing in visual component, before you even build your factory, knowing where and how you want to put certain things and how you can optimize your entire floor space. It it's nicer. So we are not just talking about 2D and with the technical boom list where all your materials will be, where all the machine will be, but actually see how people would be able to walk. And then as you watch the simulation, you'll know like maybe the shelf shouldn't be there. It's a risk, or maybe it's too far. It's not plausible. Imagine you can see that before you even put down your down payment to buy that piece of land and build your factory. That is the power of visualization, and knowing exactly what it will achieve in your new factory. How much production you can ramp up and how flexible can it be is something else as well. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a sport, Rachel, and of course with Dr. Chua as well. And Richard, thank you so much for the interesting discussions. Some last final words from Rural Robotics for yourself before we close off the day.
We are true advocate of 3D and virtual reality environment, and we are serious about that because as we were building our product development, we realized the only thing that are missing in our portfolio has not been a physical asset of a physical product itself. It's a representation of how our product can bring value to our end customer. That's where we come in and discover that we need this 3D environment platform. And along the way, of course, we got introduced to this very interesting virtual reality, real-time 3D conference platform where we can show the fancy way of doing visual component live to customer across the world. And because sometimes we don't even turn on the video to preserve our bandwidth. All you have to do is walk into the 3D environment. If you have a VR goggle, all the more better. And I think Dr. Chua can attest to it. You walk in as though you're in your factory itself. You can walk wherever you want inside the conference. You don't have to follow me at all. And you can yell me, Rachel, can you come to the left? I'm right here. Can you move this machine over? It seems to be blocking my way. And I'll say, sure. I will iterate it immediately. And that can only happen in virtual world. In real life, you ask me to move a machine, I'll tell you, okay, wait, give me half an hour, I call the forklift over.
That's right.
That's the beauty of virtual world, and being in pandemic actually make everyone realize how important it is for this kind of thing to happen. Before this, it was much more convenient to like, oh, it's okay, I can wait another day, I'll come back tomorrow and you show me. And then the 5 engineer will be clamoring around.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is why we really believe that this is the trend moving forward. Industry 4.0 can happen, and it can only happen hand in hand together with all this digital adoption.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. Dr. Chua, any last shout out from your side?
I think from my side would be, for any manufacturing industries or for any industrial sectors, I believe that the tools are out there for you to help you in terms of your digital adoption, right? And it's always important to take the first step, right? To try, right? And if it doesn't work for you at the initial step, it's still a learning journey. At least you know that this part may not work well for you, but there are many other opportunities that you can probably see from here as well and gain more insights from it. So I always encourage to at least take the first step, kickstart your journey, and then we'll always discuss and improve further. That's how we evolve, and slowly this will hopefully help you in your IR 4.0 journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again very much for your time this morning. We hope that you all had a very insightful morning as well, so that we know that eventually, visual components can solve a lot of problems. In this case, hopefully, we can actually test it out on a high mix, low volume situation. This would be interesting. I would be interesting to know as well whether it works as well. But thank you so much again. Stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, all the best.
Okay,
thank you.
All right, all the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.